All right, welcome to topic 5-5, example 2. As you watch the first video, it's easy to look at multiplying and also in essence dividing inequalities as almost the exact same thing. Why do they make such a big deal out of it? And example 2 gets into it because there is one special rule that we need to always remember when dealing with inequalities using multiplication and division. And it has everything to do with this negative symbol right here. All right? So you have a kind of an interactive little thing that you can play around with as you're working through this, but what we want to do is we want to take this problem and solve it and understand what's going on. Make sure I got the right symbol. So this idea right here. If we were to solve this the way we solved this before, we would right away jump into the distributive or the inverse operation and the equality property of division, which would say I'm going to divide by negative 3.4 and then divide this side by negative 3.4 also. So these, of course, would cancel each other out and give you an m. Symbol looks like this, and then, of course, you take 17 divided by negative. And in the end, doesn't want to write, you'd come away with a negative 5. M is less than or equal to negative 5. But this is where we kind of run into a problem. And if we were to actually graph this out and then actually try and solve this, right? So if we put this on the number line, here's 0. We'll put negative 5 here. It's going to be less than or equal to, so it's going to be a number smaller than this. But let's actually go in and plug that in and see if it makes sense. Right, this is the easiest way to check your work on inequalities, is to just plug a number in. Now negative 6 is going to be the next easiest number to use, so let's go back and plug that in. So if I take negative 3.4 and multiply by 6, sorry, by negative 6, I would get an answer of 20.4. And so what this says is that 20.4 should be less than or equal to 17. Which all of your math is suddenly jumping up alarms and saying, no, that's not true. 20 is not less than 17. Okay, but we did all the steps correctly. We used the division property, we used the inverse, we did it to the other side. We were doing our steps the way we were taught it with equations. And that part is true. However, this is the difference between inequalities and equations when it comes to multiplication and division. It has everything, once again, to do with this negative. Right? And this is something that you definitely want to keep in your notes, keep nearby when working with your inequalities. Because here's the catch. If you have a negative number that you're going to multiply or divide by, when it crosses the line, right? We're going to call this the line, right? When it crosses the symbol, when it goes to the other side, when I do it to the other side, so when I take this and I start using my principle like I'm supposed to, right? And I'm going to do this, I'm going to divide by this negative 3.4. That much is true. The instant you take that negative number to the other side, this symbol has to be flipped. It has to be flipped because of this negative number. And we just showed you why just a second ago with that number line, because I plugged in negative 6 and I got a number that didn't work. Right? But what we see happening is the instant we flip that sign, right? So instead of it being less than or equal to, it becomes greater than or equal to, and then we write negative 5. We've already done that math. We've solved it. Once we flip that sign, and now we start plugging in numbers larger than negative 5, suddenly everything works out really, really nice. Because we can take a number. Let's take negative 4. Negative 4 times 3.4. Negative 3.4 is going to give me an answer of 13.6, which is, once again, less than 17. Right? And so it kind of gets a little bit, there's a lot going on there to think about, but this answer has to be less than, even though our m has to be greater than this. Okay. This is going to take a little bit of practice, but this is going to be the biggest thing in this lesson, is whenever you have a negative, you got to flip your symbol as you move it over. All right? So remember that, and you're going to be golden. All right? You're going to be golden. If you go back to the sample problem, it walks us through the steps. Right? It says right here, this is why. When we divide by a negative value, we have to reverse the inequality symbol. They don't really do a nice job of explaining why, but that's why I took it into my hands to show you how and why. Because when we didn't, our answers didn't make sense. Right? So we have to do that. So as you look at problems like this, just remember, when you see a negative number, right, that you're doing the division by or multiplying by, right here, you gotta flip. You gotta flip the inequality symbol. All right, so here we are looking at a division type problem here. And as we look at this division type problem, we run across a couple different things. One, we're dividing by a decimal. They're just throwing, they just want everything to be fun for you guys, right? So we're starting with this problem, r, and then we have a negative, right? That should put an alarm in your head, like ding, 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 there's an alarm next to the, sorry, a negative next to the variable. So I'm gonna have to do some flipping. And if my memory would serve me better, I could do this faster. All right, so we have this problem set up, so we want to solve this. All right, so here it actually helps us by setting this up because we have this bar here, and this tells us that we're going to, instead of divide, we got to do the inverse, the opposite. So we got to multiply, and we're actually going to multiply. I didn't save myself any room to show the work. That wasn't very smart of me. All right, here we go. We're going to multiply to solve this, and since this number is on the bottom, we got to move it to the top to eliminate it. Right? And we're going to keep that negative there. So now we have negative 2.5 times that, and as we go to solve this, right, this is going to cancel out with this, and we're going to be left with r on this side. And then we're going to come to this side with this negative 2.25 and over 1, which is in essence just 2.25, negative 2.25. And so let's just see what happens if we don't flip the symbol. Let's see if our principle still holds true. Right? If we don't flip the symbol, we're going to be left with solution. A negative, my pen doesn't want to wake back up, negative 15.75. All right, so right, it's got to be larger than negative 15.75. All right, go ahead and plug that in and see if that works. Right, are we flipping or are we not flipping? Right, here we were multiplying to the other side. We weren't dividing to the other side. We were multiplying. So right, if we choose something larger than this, let's choose negative, I'll do negative 14, right? That's larger. So if I plug that negative 14 into, for this r right here, I'm going to change colors just to help us out, right? So I'm going to say 14 divided by negative 2.5. So, sorry, negative 14 divided by 2.25. and I get an answer of 6.2. Actually, it's 6.2 repeating, which, if we were to compare it to this symbol right here, 6.2 is not greater than 7. So once again, right, we have that negative. That means our symbol must flip, right? And we just, once again, proven why it has to be flipped. Because if we don't flip it, then our answers won't work. It has to flip when there's a negative sign. So whether you're doing multiplication or division, when you're dealing with a negative number, the symbol must be flipped. All right, let's double check our work with their work and see if I am a genius or if I have no idea what I'm talking about. All right, once again, we see how they used a similar process. They didn't show the fraction side of it like I did, but they showed the flipping symbol, which is important to get that negative 15.75. And that reason is all set up for you. All right. Okay, a couple more to try on your own. I know these last two videos were a little long on my part. I apologize for that. But we really want to get these ideas down, and that's why we're going to spend a couple days on these ones each. That's it for topic 5-5. Make sure you've done the triads. Make sure you bring your questions to class.